All right. We are on Rushbrook Lake. We're probably an hour and a half north of Espanola. There's about 60 kilometers on the logging road to get up here. And did a little bit of bushwhacking. Took the wrong trail to get into the lake, but eventually found it. And now we're off on a series of lakes over 4 days in the West Spanish Forest. Rushbrook Lake is actually in it's a non-operating provincial park, and kind of interesting. There's a lot of old growth forest around here, so they've protected that. We're not too sure what we're going to get into on this trip, but the ice just went out a few days ago, and there was a lot of snow on the road still coming in. Yeah, we're just heading in up towards the Shakwa River. There's a little creek that looks like it connects up with the Shakwa River here, so should have plenty of water. Made it through the little narrow creek, and now we're on the Shakwa River. Beautiful spot. Where I live, the leaves are already coming out, but I think we're still a couple of weeks away here, maybe. Trying out this rope bag attached to your canoe. It keeps your rope from going all over the place when you're doing the portage. Kind of cool. By Recreational Barrel Works. There's a short, maybe 50-meter portage done. Looks like we've got a portage here. I see some ribbons in the tree up here, so maybe that's a good sign for a portage. You can see that's how much snow there is in some spots. It's up to my knee coming through there. Let's go, Dawson. Coming up to, I think, the last portage of the day. It's interesting, there's it's like dammed up with sandbags there. There's sandbags. Well, I think we did maybe 5 portages. A few leftovers up that Shakwa Creek. Got quite a bit of lots of beaver dams and logs and things. I was able to line a couple of them, but now we're in, I think we're in part of Shakwa Lake now, a little end of it. That old fire tower in the distance. All right, I think we may have spotted a campsite. I've said that a few times today, but I don't know. I have good hopes for this one. Seeing that fire tower kind of really makes you think how simple things were not too long ago, and they didn't have satellite phones and devices, and they maybe had a radio, but they were pretty much out here alone. Whoever was looking after that tower, it'd be a pretty isolating job. Pretty run down, hasn't been used in years and years.
This tower is part of a network that the Ontario Department of Lands and Forests operated that at one time included over 300 towers across the province. Many were built in the 1920s and were still in operations until the 1960s and 70s when they were phased out and many were dismantled. A handful are maintained as scenic lookouts, like in Dorset and Temagami, while others, like this one, are slowly fading back into the landscape. A relic of another era.
For sides tonight, we've got asparagus, pepper, and we got a bunch of mushrooms here. As a classic first night, we got a nice strip loin steak. Alright, there we go. Nice looking first dinner. That was quite a trek to get in. Got started a little later than I wanted to. Kind of bushwhacked into the wrong access to the lake. Ate up a couple hours doing that. Still got to this site. I believe this is, I think it's Upper Shakwa Lake. First real trip of the season for me. Met a few folks at the boat launch who were coming in to do like a group trail maintenance around the first lake I was at. So kind of cool they're doing that, trying to open up some portages, and it's not a really well traveled area. I was able to find a few trip reports, but there's not a lot of, couldn't see much activity on the portages. So. And we're off. I think we're gonna go check out Anishinaabe Lake. Let's see. Other option is to go back down towards main Shakwa Lake and camp there for the night, and then camp there maybe tomorrow night too, and do a little bit more fishing. Let's see. I think there's a portage or a access road out of this lake, Upper Shakwa Lake, into another lake, and then that eventually will lead into, I think, Anishinaabe Creek, and then Anishinaabe Lake. But just a little cautious of time here. Got 2 more nights, and there's supposed to be some pretty heavy winds today and this evening, so, but I think it's supposed to calm down tomorrow, so I just have to make a pretty long trek back tomorrow is the only issue. So just off to find a portage into the next lake, and there's a lot of snow in here still. Well, I don't like to give up on things, but I don't think we're gonna go to Anishinaabe Lake. There's probably a kilometer plus portage just to get to the potentially a trail, and there's a lot of snow in the bush here, so just thinking about, I got to get back almost all the way to Rushbrook Lake tomorrow. Maybe we'll head over to Shakwa Lake instead. All right, Dust, let's go. Come on. Come on. Well, we're heading over towards main Shakwa Lake. We're gonna do a little bit of fishing. If there's lake trout in this lake, it should be not too far down. The ice just went out not too long ago, maybe a week ago. Sometimes I've had really good luck, sometimes not so much when the ice goes out. Sometimes they're really biting, and sometimes it kind of feels like they're still hibernating or something. Any idea what that is? Kind of looks like target practice or something. Interesting. Made it into Shakwa Lake, the main lake here. Went through a little narrow section there with a lot of deadheads sticking up. But this is a bigger lake here. It's really windy out right now. So we're gonna try and find us a nice campsite. Looks like a spot here. Really windy out. We're gonna check this spot out, and if it's good, we might stay here. All right, well, found this spot here. It's on kind of a little point. Doesn't look like it's been used very often, but there's a campfire here. Some old kind of rotten wood. An old table thing there. Yeah, I think it'll do. I'm glad we stopped here when we did, because the wind picked up big time. And based on the weather report on the satellite device, it's supposed to gradually die out over the night, throughout the evening here, but I think it's kind of slowed down a tiny bit. But Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten too far on the lake when we did. I'm just glad we stopped because we're basically windbound. We had some big white caps out over here. You can see it's just wind's just whipping through here. So I thought I'd show you what we bring for Dawson for camping gear. Bringing a dog on a camping trip brings a whole other element of gear to bring, and this is kind of what we've typically bring on a trip, and it kind of varies a little bit depending on a few different things. But so we got our food here, and we like to double bag the food just because it does kind of give off a pretty strong smell. So we found even when we put it in the food barrel, kind of makes everything smell like dog food. So we found double bagging the food helps. Bring a couple of dog dishes, her leash, we got a harness here, her life jacket, she wears that more in the spring trips. And then that's a sleeping bag, it's like a dog sleeping bag. A lot of the time in the summer trips we'll just bring a towel, and she just likes to sleep on that, and then you can use the towel to dry her off. But in the spring trips we'll bring that. And then this is a first aid kit, and this one's specifically for dogs. This is just one we got at a store and we've added to it. Whole extra gear we got to bring for you, Dawson. So I was just doing a few casts off the rocks here and not really expecting to catch anything, and this laker just slammed my line right as I was pulling it up. Not a huge one, but nice eating size. Pretty nice surprise considering it's been just too rough to fish out on the lake today. All right, there we're all cut up and ready to make some dinner. All right, there we go. Some fresh asparagus and some nice freshly caught trout. And a little bit of lemon on there. Well, the loons are going crazy now. It's just dead calm on the lake. Beautiful night. Well, we got a potentially longer day tomorrow. All right. Good night, folks. Well, we're off through Shakwa Lake today, and we're gonna try and catch some fish. This is one of the bigger lakes we're on this trip. So we'll do a bit of fishing, and then we're gonna try and connect back to Rushbrook Lake through a couple of other smaller lakes or ponds. But if it's looking too tough to get through there, if there's no real trail or it's treacherous, we're gonna have to backtrack back up through Shakwa Lake up to the Shakwa River, and then south down back into Rushbrook Creek and then Rushbrook Lake, which will take probably a half day just to get back through there. So I'm gonna give myself lots of time just in case. And the goal is to get over to Rushbrook Lake by tonight, because there's supposed to be some pretty big storms, I think. I want to give myself lots of time to get home tomorrow. It's about a 6+ hour drive. I guess that's tomorrow's problem. Barrel is getting lighter. Beautiful day. Nicest day yet. Alright, making our way. You can see that there's suckers running through here. Another beaver dam. Good girl. Alright, the game plan is to paddle to the end of this and hope there's a some sort of trail. You wouldn't really know it just from looking around, but this is this little lake or pond or whatever. Looks like it could be like a pretty decent sized lake, but the water is only like 3-4 feet deep through almost the whole thing here. Don't see many signs of people camping in here. Alright, we're at the end of this pond, lake. And I think we're headed in that direction there. Well, we're here back on Rushbrook Lake, kind of coming up one of the creeks, and no sign of trail or anything, and so I was just kind of tracking up this creek and was thinking I was gonna have to bushwhack, and so I started kind of just going along the creek that kind of just turned into a bit of a boulder garden, and I heard some people, and turns out it was this group here that's doing trail maintenance, and yeah, I talked to them for a while. Seemed like really cool people, and doing some maintenance to try and kind of encourage some folks to come out and paddle some of these routes. And I think it's just good to have, if you have more awareness of some of these areas like this old growth forest, I think it's more likely that people will do things to protect it. And even though there is kind of part of the one side of the lake here is a provincial park, They're still trying to get a larger area of the old growth forest protected. So yeah, pretty cool. So it was a easier trek in than I thought through those two big portages. So now I'm just here and just have a short paddle across the lake tomorrow. The best part about getting to camp is taking off these dry pants. They always seem to get a little bit wet. I don't know if it's sweat or I might have a hole in one of them, but one of the feet. But these were pretty handy on the creek section because the water's still pretty cold. And then I wore these neoprene socks over top of these socks that are built into the pants. Kind of helps protect the material and also insulates your feet. And then I just go with like these. These are old hiking boots, just something with ankle support. All right, so we're gonna do a pulled pork backcountry poutine tonight. Just take the pine needles out of our cutting work area. All right. And here is a little pack of dehydrated pulled pork that we made. Just made pulled pork in a slow cooker, and we did rinse it to get some of the fat off of it. And then we just dehydrated it with some spices and like a barbecue spice. So cheese curds, and then to top it off, oh yeah, that's a lot of food. There's something about sitting under a tarp, listening to the rain. It's kind of a relaxing feeling. I'm just going to enjoy my last beer that I hauled all the way in this big loop. I'll probably hit the hay and get up at a good time tomorrow morning. Good morning. The rain has stopped for now, and we're just packing up. We're gonna skip breakfast because we're pretty close to the takeout here. I'm just gonna pack up and maybe do a little bit of trolling and fishing on the way over to the boat launch. There's supposed to be, at least yesterday they were calling for some thunderstorms this morning, so I'm gonna try and avoid being out on the water on those. Yeah, a lot of rain all night, but man, it's just stayed pretty dry, and gear's still pretty dry. Set up under the tarp here. I think the fog might be lifting a little bit, so let's get going. Well, that's it. Made it to the end. Awesome 4-day trip in the West Spanish Forest. Really cool place. I want to come back to do a longer trip. But thanks for watching. See you on the next trip.